Hello and welcome back to Let's All Laugh At, the football podcast that thrives at the expense of someone else. I'm George. I'm joined tonight by Johnny and Andrew. How you guys doing?
Yeah, good man. Yeah, very good.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, obviously, first only really one place to start, and that's the final day of the Premier League. The season is finally over. Feels like an age, almost a full calendar year since it actually started, but here we are at last. Quite a bit of, not quite as much drama as the Championship to go over, but still a fair bit. I suppose the most interesting place to start is at the bottom of the table. For those who didn't see the results, it was between three teams, Villa, Bournemouth and Watford. Watford went 3-0 down against your side, Johnny, Arsenal. Pulled it back to 3-2 in the second half, but couldn't get that last goal, or the last two they needed to win the game, so they were relegated. Bournemouth did manage to win their game against Everton, a 3-1 against a very lacklustre Everton side, it's fair to say. But with Villa getting that crucial point away at West Ham, 1-1 draw, taking the lead with about 5 minutes to go, and then immediately conceding an equaliser. But they managed to do just enough to scrape on and hang on. So to see, ironically, the same three teams that went up in 2015, I think it was, Bournemouth, Watford and Norwich. All right, Norwich went down straight away and then came back up a few years later. But Bournemouth and Watford have been here ever since, and they went down together as well. So, yeah, Johnny, it's a bit of a mad day, but I mean, it was definitely an exciting one as well.
It wasn't a bad day actually, and Troy Deeney got relegated, which is always nice. No.
Amen.
Yeah, no, you know what? To be fair, Troy Deeney, I mean, he does get a lot of stick, and some. When he said about Arsenal not having cojones, he was probably right, to be honest. But it was a good day, great day of football, to be honest. Lots of drama. I felt a little bit sorry for Bournemouth. A little bit sorry for him, you know. But then again, they've been so poor all season that it just sums up, doesn't it, to beat Everton away. I thought Watford played quite well actually against us. They actually dominated the game for little spells. I thought the scoreline when it was 3-0 was a little bit harsh on them. They had a few chances, but that is Watford all over, isn't it? They're just not very good, Watford. I know they beat Liverpool 3-0 early on in the season, but they're just not very good, are they?
No, I mean with Troy Deeney, I'm sort of in two minds on him because on the one hand, you know, obviously he had that time in jail, of course, and then was immediately, you know, came back to play for Watford, lost the playoff final to Palace, but got up a couple of seasons later. Obviously, captain now, played in the Premier League. It is, I suppose, you could call it quite a romantic story. Certainly, from a Watford fan, would say that. But on the other hand, you know, I don't know if you saw his interview about when they beat us in the FA Cup last year, and basically they were talking about how their game plan was just to kick the hell out of Wilf and get him out of the game. Which, you know, it was obvious to everyone if you've watched Watford against us for the past 4 years. You know, just to actually come out and say it was just like, you know, it's just you're confirming it at that point. But either way, he's down, so I'm not going to dwell on that too much either way. I think you're right. I think that Watford was surprisingly good against Arsenal, but Andrew, ultimately they faltered at the wrong moments. They didn't have enough in them to stay up in the end.
Yeah, I think Watford's start to the season is really what got them down because they were so far adrift. I mean, Nigel Pearson was able to reignite a little bit with them, but yeah, I mean, when you look at some of their players on paper, you'd think they'd do better, like Foster, Decore, Delafeo, Gray, Sarr. You know, they have actually Danny Welbeck. They've got some good players on paper, but yeah, I think changing the manager constantly, their poor start, and basically, I mean, their defending against Arsenal was pretty bad, so they weren't going to stay up. I mean, talking about Troy Deeney, I actually think he's quite refreshing because most footballers just say the same thing over and over again, like, oh, game of two halves, like all the cliches. Troy Deeney actually talks, you know, and he says what he thinks. So, yeah, it'll be sad that he's not in the... well, I don't know, he might move, they said. I read that he might be going to West Brom. But, yeah, it'll be sad if Watford aren't in the Premier League. But to be honest, the three teams that have gone down are the most pointless teams in the Premier League. Like, Bournemouth have such a low attendance. Norwich didn't even try to stay up.
Of course, a Newcastle fan brings up attendances.
Yeah. Bournemouth have the lowest attendance. Norwich always come up, go straight back down, always 19th or 20th when they go down. And Watford is just like I said, like most people do not know the starting 11 of Watford's team majority of the time. They've got a lot of big squads with lots of players from Udinese and all over the place. So yeah, I think they are the three most pointless teams, to be honest.
Okay, well, goodbye to all of our Watford, Bournemouth and Norwich subscribers. I've got a Watford guest in mind that I want to bring on at some point, so I'll be sure to quote that and read it out to him when he's done.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, we'll move on from, we'll move away from Watford slightly, but the broader point I was making in regards to their game and just the relegation scrap as a whole is that there's always this myth going around that goals keep you up. I mean, to an extent, that's true. If you have a goal scorer, you're more likely to stay up than if you don't have a goal scorer. But for me, what keeps you up more than anything, and I support Palace, so I know exactly what I'm talking about in this regard, it's a solid back four. It's a solid defence. If you don't concede goals, you don't lose games. And I find that teams who are able to be defensive and grind it out and get the points, even just a draw when they need to, are much more likely to scrape to 40 points and get over the hurdle than a team that just bombs forward and concedes so many goals and drops so many wins from winning position instances and all that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate way to sum up all three teams in the bottom three, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, Bournemouth, they're a really good footballing side, Bournemouth. And, when they first came up, 5 years ago, they were hard to play against. And every team that went to Dean Court, or the Vitality as it's called now, they were hard to play against. Arsenal went there and struggled a few times. They beat Chelsea, they beat United. They just stopped doing what they're good at. They try to outplay teams, and they come up short. And I do feel a little bit sorry for Bournemouth because of the whole ghost goal for Aston Villa against. Yeah. I mean, I do feel a bit sorry for them. I mean, I know they're discussing a compensation claim. I don't know how far that's going to go because.
But the thing is with VAR, it's not even just the ghost goal as well. There was also the goal against Spurs that was disallowed, the last-minute winner, and the last-minute equaliser via Southampton. Any one of those would have kept them up. So VAR has completely screwed them over, no matter which way you look at it.
Yeah, and I think then again, Villa will argue they had a perfectly good goal against Palace earlier on in the season when Jack Grealish got fouled. So I mean, it does.
But we also had a perfectly good goal ruled out as well. So swinging roundabouts.
Absolutely. And Bournemouth can't blame anybody else but themselves because they haven't been good enough. And that's I like Bournemouth. I like Eddie Howe. Yeah, they're down because they deserve to be down. And unfortunately, I don't see them bouncing back up. Like some teams, they'll go down and come back up. Like Norwich, if they keep their decent players, they'll come straight back up again and then go straight back down again. Where Bournemouth, I think they're going to struggle. I mean, I don't know
if you've seen about Bournemouth. Apparently, they have about £80 million in transfer fees still owed. Reportedly, they've accepted a £40 million bid from Manchester City for Ake. I mean, not only is that a great amount of money for a relegated player, I think it might even be the record. But I mean, that's basically half their debt wiped out if that's true. So that's some good business for them. But yeah, I think you're right with them. I think that Eddie Howe, obviously, people talk about the money spent, but at the end of the day, you don't get a team from League Two to the Premier League without being at least a decent manager. You have to be able to put a team together with that money, and he's done very well with that. So I think they probably will stick with him purely because they need a stable pair of hands while they get rid of this debt and they sort things out at the club. Because the lack of Premier League money for them, especially with, like Andrew said, with the smaller attendances, they're much more reliant on the TV money, and without that, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So they're probably going to want to keep some stability at the club, maybe aim for about mid-table, possibly the playoffs if they can. Maybe.
Isn't Nathan Ake just a Dutch John Stones? Am I the only one?
Well, I mean, I'm sort of thinking that as well. Yeah, but I think probably. I think for a mid-table / bottom six team like Bournemouth, I think he's a good player for that. But for Manchester City, I think they may just be doing the old Mourinho, where they're buying him so no one else has him. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think you're right. Nathan Ake is a decent defender. He's decent, but Man City aren't exactly great at defending themselves. Apart from Laporte, apart from that, they're quite easy to score against Man City. So I don't think Ake improves them that much, if I'm honest. I think
I thought City would be going for Koulibaly or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I'm really surprised they've gone for.
From City,
a defender who struggled against Dwight Gale this season. So
yeah.
If I'm Man City and they've got money to burn, I'd spend a lot of money on that Soyuncu of Leicester. I'd try and buy him because that's what they need. They need someone like that, not a Nathan Ake who's. He's just been relegated. £40 million is a lot of money, and he's good, but he's not that good.
Yeah, no, I think that. Ultimately, there's a reason Chelsea let him go. I think that's probably the best way of looking at it. I think I saw a report as well saying
Chelsea let De Bruyne, Salah, and Lukaku go as well.
Good point. Very good point. But I think if you're going to try and compare Nathan Ake to Kevin De Bruyne, then I think even City fans who now have both of them or look like to have both of them might have your head for that. But yeah, as for Villa, obviously with the amount of money that they've spent and the amount of money they've spent both on wages and fees over the past, since they were relegated basically. I know they have a much richer owner now, but the Premier League money was definitely crucial for them, and they've also announced a new sporting director, Johan Lange. I hope I'm saying that right. Has been appointed. So apparently he's got experience already. Imagine hiring a sporting director with experience. Dougie Freedman. But we'll get onto that later, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that's a sure sign of Villa have realised that they've made mistakes and they need restructuring and they need a smarter recruitment policy. Even though not all the players they brought in were bad by any means, and ultimately have kept them up. Jack Grealish notwithstanding, in terms of how much, obviously he had a big impact, but in terms of where they go from here, I think it's definitely important that they restructure a lot of the time, but knowing your biases, I'm sure you're hoping that they won't.
I mean, the thing with Villa's spending is I can't recall who they bought. Like, they spent all this money, they spent, I think, 20 million on Wesley, they bought lots and lots of players, much of a muchness, but, to be honest, Grealish, McGinn are kind of their top players, aren't they? They're the ones they kind of go to. But yeah, I think probably the most important thing for them would be to keep Jack Grealish, because whenever I've watched Villa, everything good comes from Jack Grealish. But yeah, I think the restructuring, they're probably going to try and learn from the errors they've made. But it is difficult, to find these players nowadays, because all the Premier League clubs are going. I mean, I saw Brighton have bought an Ajax defender today, so it is difficult to bring these players in.
Under £1 million for, I think Vestergaard is the one, not Vestergaard.
Is it Jan Veltman? Is that his name?
Veltman, sorry, I don't know why I said Vestergaard. I think it's just the V and the Dutch to sort of confuse me. No offense to any of our Dutch listeners, the two that are out there.
Lallana's gone to Brighton as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be massive to their wage bill at the end of the day. But I don't think they were paying that much on wages to begin with, so they've clearly thought. And Brighton as well is a very young and experienced team. They haven't added much Premier League experience since they've been up, really. So I think that was very crucial for both of those senses. I think I can't say I'm jealous of either of those two signings personally, because we're already well equipped in both of those positions, anyways, in my opinion. Plus, we already have far too many aging players on big wages. But in terms of what they need, in terms of the business that they've done, I won't lie. I wish we could do our business as quickly and as efficiently as that.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jack Grealish as well. I know he gets a lot of stick for diving and stuff, but I think he's a star. I really do. I'd love him at Arsenal. I would absolutely love him, because Arsenal were screaming out for a creative player, and Jack Grealish would just him and if Aubameyang stays, of course, but him, Aubameyang, Pepe, Lacazette, we finish 7th next season. So yeah.
Well, I mean, Man United have been the one strongest link with him for a while now. Well, I think their reports saying they seem to be linked elsewhere. Obviously, the Sancho deal talks have been ongoing. Looks like they may well be getting him.
Don't him and Bruno play in the same position, I bet?
Well, exactly. That's the thing. I think they're more worried about. I think it's more to do with backup of stuff like Bruno gets injured. Their injury record isn't the greatest, as we know. But either way, they look to be looking elsewhere, or just not interested in that position at all. So that's a big boost for Villa, and that's concerned. I mean, speaking as someone who's had a standout star player who we've been trying to keep for a while, I think that it is important they keep him for at least one more season, because of that extra boost that he can give them, even if it's just 2 or 3 places, can make the difference. And I think that he would do well to stay at a smaller club outside the top 6, to learn his trade a bit more and get him ready for his big move, because he's still only 23, 24.
Maybe he could go to Arsenal then.
Yeah, possibly.
To be fair, I think Arsenal's a club where he would get in that team. I think he would play, because, like you said, you've been looking for, at this point, anyone will do as far as creative centre mids go.
So, George, I'd get in the team, mate, at this rate.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think the important thing is getting first team football, and I don't think with United signing Bruno, like you said, and looking to spend all this money on Sancho as well. I know they're different positions, but they're likely not going to have that much more to spend in regards to with the other players that may end up bringing in. I think that he would do much better to learn his trade a bit more and then get his bigger money move. But they've also got to be careful, as we've learned, not to hold on to him too long. Otherwise, you could not end up getting a lot less money than you thought, and that could hurt the squad a lot long term. So yeah, all we really have left, aside from the bottom 3, and I have to say, before I move on, I want to say, I find it really refreshing that we actually had a relegation battle on the final day. We haven't had one of those in a long time. It's always done and dusted before the end of the season, and it's just I like, as a neutral, obviously I don't want Palace to be involved, but it was nice to sort of see that unfurl again, even though it wasn't as nice for the teams actually involved in it.
Yeah, absolutely. What annoyed me a little bit, because I haven't got Sky. I was at my parents' house watching the football, and on Pick, the free channel, they had Man City versus Norwich, a game that had absolutely nothing to play for. I know it's all on the other Sky channels, but if you haven't got Sky and you want to watch a game of football, why would you want to watch Man City versus Norwich?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I know it's 5-0, but Norwich are already down. Man City can't finish any higher. They can't, they can't go nowhere. I just thought if you haven't got Sky and you want to watch a bit of free football, a bit of excitement, at least show the West Ham Villa game, or even in the Arsenal Watford game, or Bournemouth or
Well,
something.
it's what pulls in the crowds, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, there's more City fans there than there are probably, the likes of Villa, Watford, and Bournemouth. So, but I mean, you argue the neutrals are going to be more interested in that game, so you might get a bigger crowd. But I guess they're not looking at it in that terms. Either way,
Yeah, I
I
guess
agree.
so.
I agree with you. I think they should have put any one of those games front and foremost. Probably West Ham, Aston Villa, because that was the one where the result really mattered in terms of the other teams as well. But either way. So yeah, speaking of the top of the table, the only issue really left, well, I suppose technically two issues, the Champions League and Europa League places. We ended up with Man United and Chelsea in third and fourth, Chelsea beating Wolves on the final day, and Man United winning at Leicester to pip them to the final place. This meant Leicester, I mean, they've been in the top four pretty much all season, and then they slip out of it on the second to last weekend, so gutting for them. And also at the bottom, just beneath them, Tottenham pip Wolves to the final guaranteed Europa League place.
Yeah.
If Arsenal can win the FA Cup, then that's goodbye to Wolves' European hopes. Unless they win the Europa League, which is still to play for. But yeah, definitely a lot of interesting stuff going on there.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll save my Man United, Chelsea, and Spurs opinion until the Let's All Laugh at. I've got an opinion. I've got an opinion on them three clubs.
Okay, yeah, Andrew. I mean, with regards to Leicester, as I said, they spent all this summer in the season in the top four. But I mean, since Christmas, they've pretty much we've been able to see they've run out of steam. They've won, I think, only about 6 games in about 21 or something like that. It's gutting for them. But do you really think it is just a case of steam running out, or do you think that do you think they've been let down by the management?
No, I think they had injuries. I think when they got the injuries to, I think Chilwell, Sayuncu, and Maddison, that's three key players. And I think the big thing for me is if I'd been Leicester in January, I would have gone and bought 2-3 players to help the squad.
Yep.
But they kind of said, no, everyone's doing so well, let's carry on. But they probably needed a couple of players. I think as well, their squad is smaller, so the way the league was, where we were playing every 3-4 days rather than every week, I mean, less recovery time, so injuries become more of a problem. I mean, I think quite a few teams who've got the smaller squads have struggled a bit. I mean, Wolves haven't been the same since they've come back either, really, since post-lockdown as well. So, yeah, I think possibly COVID has played a role as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've seen how different teams have dealt with COVID. I mean, take Palace, for instance. First game back, we looked absolutely up for it. We looked like we wanted to play for a while. And then I think the lack of depth, combined with the manager's reluctance to rotate a lot of times, really cost us. I think the players were tired. I think that, Andros Townsend came out and said, we're giving it our all. Was like, yeah, right, mate. We can all see that you can't. We can all see that we saw against the Chelsea and United games and the Spurs games. You can play. You can still have it in you to play well. You're just too tired, or you're not motivated for the away games, or you're not set up properly. Whatever it is, we all know that that's not the best you can be doing. So I think different clubs have handled it differently. Look at Southampton. I think the break really benefited them. I think that they were sort of slipping a bit towards the relegation zone before the pandemic hit, and then now I think they're like third only to City and Liverpool. I think it is for the most amount of points won after the lockdown. So it's interesting to see how all these teams have done.
Yeah, Che Adams has done well since the lockdown. He didn't score a goal, and now he's on fire.
Yeah, I think Leicester were disappointed they didn't get the Champions League, but I think they've had such a great season. I think in January, if you said to them you're 14 points clear, but in July you wouldn't be in the top 4, they probably would have laughed at you. No. But they've done well, and Jamie Vardy still. He's got to be. I know he's retired from England now, but he's got to be called up because the boy is different class.
Yeah, golden boot for him. I think he's the oldest golden boot winner in the Premier League's history, or at least one of them. So yeah, and he hadn't won as well, even when Leicester won the league. I think it was Harry Kane that just pipped him to the golden boot. So it's good that he's finally got one. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you in terms of it's been a good season. I had Leicester to finish, I think, the 6th at the start of the season, so I did think they'd break into the top 6. They have definitely overperformed and I understand that initial disappointment that they couldn't quite hold on to the end. But I also think that it gives them more of a time to adjust, because ultimately Europa League is going to be less demanding than Champions League, although they will still need a bigger squad and they'll need to invest in it properly. But I think it's a good next step for them to take if they want to progress as a club. And I think that the ownership is right. They've got owners that care about the club and know what they're doing with, and investing in like the infrastructure, the training ground, and all sorts of things. Things are on the up at Leicester, and there's a lot to be excited about. So they need to not get too, if they have a poor start to the season, they need to not get too rash. They need to trust the system that they've built, and they need to work for things to get better, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely agree.
I mean, Leicester as well, like, to be fair to the fans, they've won the Premier League, so I'm not going to feel too sorry for them not being in the Champions League.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say...
It still blows my mind that they've won the Premier League, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I found it amazing how much they've had the couple of stuttering years since then, under the likes of Claude Puel and that. But I've found it amazing they have ambition. They want to get back up there again. They want to try and win another league title if they can and get back in the Champions League and establish themselves. So I think that is admirable that they didn't just say, well, hang on, let's not make this just a fairy tale. Let's see if we can use it to push on. Okay then, I guess there's only one other place to go, and that is we mentioned it briefly, it's the FA Cup final. We talked about it on your podcast, Johnny, Life's a Pitch. You can check the link in the description below if you want to see that. You can catch both me and him talking about it. And yeah, it's set to be a really good, really tight game with been two relatively inconsistent sides, all things considered, but have done well since the lockdown. So yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, it hasn't been a great season for Arsenal. I can safely say that. But if we win the FA Cup, I will say it's probably a 6 out of 10 this season for Arsenal, because it has improved under Arteta. But if we win the FA Cup, I'll safely say it's an 8 out of 10. But it's going to be difficult because Chelsea are a good side. But we are a different beast in the FA Cup. I don't know what it is. We've become a cup team, which is annoying but good at the same time. But it's going to be, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I see plenty of goals.
Were you excited about Baku last year?
Oh, yeah, I want revenge. That's what I want. I want revenge for Baku. Yeah, that's what I want. Desperate for that. Yeah. Oh, darn, you brought back horrible nightmares for Baku. Yeah, that was not nice. And the thing is, that game, I know the 4-1 was a horrific scoreline, but I mean, I watched that game and I don't know how it was 4-1. It was one of them games where first half we played really well, didn't take our chances, and then in typical Arsenal fashion we decided to let them have 3 goals and then pull one back. It was never a 4-1 game, but I'm hoping we can get some revenge and Aubameyang can score 6 on Saturday.
His last game ever, yeah.
His last game. Excuse mate.
Are you confident him signing a new contract?
Do you know what, mate? I know you can't read much into like he looks happy, but then again, I don't know if he's happy because he's getting money. I don't know. He seems like he wants to stay.
Looks happy. He still went to Barcelona.
Yeah, I know. I would love him to stay because without his goals, we'd be in the relegation zone this season, and that's where we're so reliant on him. But I hope he stays for one final time. If we win the FA Cup, get into Europe. And then maybe push on next season. I'd love him to stay, really would. But if he doesn't want to stay, then we can't let him leave for free. But we've got to get something for him, and that's very important because we've done that so many times over the past few years. Let our decent players go for nothing when we could have got something for them. So yeah.
I know what that feels like. Well, I mean, part of me. I'm not necessarily wanting Aubameyang to leave, but if he does, I think it would be a better chance of you actually paying the money for Zaha because we really need it. We really need someone to come in.
Why would they want someone who scored 3 goals?
Well, exactly. That's the problem. I mean, ultimately,
John Shelby scored more goals than him.
Yeah, couldn't slip that one in, could you? I mean, you look at the 3 seasons past then, he's 27 years old. Past season before, he got about 10 goals and assists per season. He has had an off-season, and he's had worse players around him, so it's been much harder to stand out, or much harder to feed off them, because last season he had the likes of Batshuayi, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. They've both gone, and we've also played a lot more defensive and a lot more conservative as a result. So I think that he still has a lot to offer, and I think also as well that how the situation ended at the end of the last window, where he handed in that transfer request so late on, and then we had no time to sell him in the end. I think his head's just been gone ever since. And I'm not saying he hasn't tried hard, he doesn't care about the club, but you can tell that he's made up his mind and he wants to move on. So I think that a fresh environment would do good for him. I know the likes of Dortmund have been linked with him. I think if that would only really happen if United signed Sancho.
He wouldn't get in the team at Dortmund.
Maybe not, but I think Dortmund would be at least smart enough to get him off the bench because they recognise talent when they see it. You only need to look at Jude Bellingham for that. So I think that he wouldn't be a guaranteed starter, but with Sancho gone, there would be a lot more room to get in there.
Yeah, I must admit with Zaha, I think he could do a fresh break in somewhere abroad like Dortmund or something like that. Because I think, because I mean I do like Zaha. I think he's a brilliant player when he wants to be. I think Palace has been a little bit unfortunate, as you said earlier, shortly ago, that the players around him haven't been fantastic. So he's. But I think I'll take him at Arsenal. Of course I would. I think he's a decent player, and with better players around him, he'd only flourish. I can see him going abroad. I can see him going to somewhere like a Dortmund or somewhere like that. Just have a fresh start, because he does get a lot of stick, Zaha. Some of it's warranted. Don't get me wrong, but some of it is a little bit so he gets a lot of unfair stick as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said. I think again it's a case now of just. I mean, I think we should have sold him last summer and been more reasonable with our fee, because now we'd be lucky to get 50 million. When before we could have gotten something like 60. So, I mean, we were holding out for about 70 or 80, which you can understand given how crucial he was at the time. But you got to look at that and think that's a record sale, and then look at what that money. Not only does it get more money in to spend on the rest of the team, but he's our biggest earner on the wage bill. We could get that off, and we could use it to restructure the club as well, to restructure the wage bill. So I think it is crucial. As much as it will hurt him to see him go, and I think the main reason a lot of Palace fans want him to move abroad is so he can't play blinders against us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it would be a better challenge for him overall. I think a new environment would get him revitalised, and I think a team like Dortmund would use him. I don't think they'd be starting every game, but I think he would get time off the bench. I think he would get the proper run time, and I think he would be able to stake his claim. So. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I just hope we can get the best deal we can for him, but it's looking like all the reports I've seen going around, Everton offering Iwobi and something like that, plus about 20 million. It's like, it's all this stuff. We're not that stupid. None of that's going to work. So I'm just worried that the team, that there's not going to be a team that coughs up what we need.
Yeah, that is worried. Yeah.
He's flopped at Everton, and he's hardly played, I don't think.
Yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, you saw him week in, week out for Arsenal. I mean, are you surprised at what's happened at Everton?
What, Iwobi? Well, he's a very frustrating player to watch. Iwobi. He's got talent. I've always said about Iwobi, he's got a lot of talent. He can play football. He just doesn't do it enough. He's very similar to like a Theo Walcott. If he's got to think about it, he can't do it. Like if he acts on instinct, he could be a world beater, because he's got everything you want. He's a bit like Bambi on ice sometimes, Iwobi, and it's incredibly frustrating to watch. But why Everton paid £30 million for him still baffles me to this day. It's a shame to see him, because I do like Iwobi, but I'm not sure what's happened to Everton. But Everton are pretty poor themselves, aren't they, to be fair?
Yeah, I mean, let's get back to the FA Cup final, shall we? That's why we're here. We talked about Arsenal, but I think Chelsea, obviously, we talked on your podcast before about how, Arsenal City and then in the semi-final and Arsenal Chelsea in the final is a winning combination, so it might happen again. So I think Chelsea especially will be aware of that and will want to. I mean, if Lampard can get himself a trophy in his first season, that'll be seen as a big success, particularly with the transfer ban that they've had. So I think both teams will be really up for it, Andrew, and I think that it'll probably be. It's hard to say. On the one hand, it could be because both teams aren't the best defensively. We know that. There could be a lot of goals either way, but also they could be more aware of that and they could be more cautious as a result. So how do you see this one going?
I think it could be a case of the X, basically. I think it could be David Luiz, depends on how he plays, or Olivier Giroud, and depends on how he plays. Because Giroud is in the best form I've seen him play since he's come to England.
Oh, I miss him. I miss Giroud. What a player.
Yeah,
got me sold him, really.
He killed. He played a key role in Baku, letting Hazard play off him. So. But yeah, both defences are not very good, and their attacks are better. I think Chelsea's central midfield's better than Arsenal's, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Arsenal fans are quite interesting with how pre-lockdown they hated Ceballos, now they love him. So big change.
We're a fickle bunch, mate. We're a fickle bunch, honestly.
Yeah, very fickle.
Yeah, David Luiz. I said on my podcast earlier, David Luiz. If he scores the winner on Saturday, I'm never slagging him off ever again. I'll say I might grow my hair.
We'll both hold you to that. Don't worry about that.
But David Luiz, he probably score a goal, give away a penalty, get sent off. That's what he'll probably do on Saturday. Yeah, that's what he is. He's a nightmare.
He broke the Premier League record, didn't he, for most penalties conceded? I mean, that's a good achievement for him.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I mean, I always thought David Luiz in the Brazil-Germany game still defines. Whenever I just think he just stopped running in his home World Cup. It was just atrocious game.
Yeah, bloody good free kick taker, though.
Not yet. Well, for us, he hasn't. He can't hit the target for us. Either hits the wall or goes miles over the bar. Maybe Saturday's the day. He's gonna ping it in from 35 yards straight in the top corner. That's my
definitely wouldn't be out of character. Yeah, so we'll go for score predictions. Johnny, I know you gave yours on Life's a Pitch, but have you revised your choice at all? Or
no, I'm still going to say 2-1 Arsenal. I just think the Cup's we're a different beast in the Cup. I don't know what it is. If we can play as good as we played against Man City in the semi-final, I'm very confident, because if we play like that, then we'll beat Chelsea with ease. But if we play like we did against Aston Villa, it might be a bit different. But 2-1 Arsenal. I've got back my own team in the Cup final now.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
I think it'll be a close game. I think maybe 3-2 Chelsea with Giroud to get the winner.
Just to rub it in that little bit more. Yeah, I'm going. I think it will be 2-1 either way. I'm gonna go Arsenal. I've just got. I can't really say why. I've just got a funny feeling that they are going to pull it off this. Well, I say this time. I've always done it before, but I think Johnny's right. I think that both managers are under big pressure to win a trophy in their first season / half a season. So I think that it'll be an interesting battle of wits, so to speak. Yeah, I can just see them edging it out, I suppose.
I hope so.
Yeah, will be a good one to watch for sure. So yeah, if we put it off long enough, I'm afraid, Andrew, we probably do have to touch on this. The breaking news that's come out today of Newcastle, which you've been hinting at for a long while, but it was finally confirmed today that the Saudi takeover is officially off. They've said that it's dragged out too long and become too complicated and had too much scrutiny that they weren't confident of the deal actually being done, so they've withdrawn. I mean, you saw this coming as inevitable for a long time, but I mean, I can't say I'm particularly, I've seen some fans laughing about it on Twitter. I can't really say I'm one of them, because I know what it's like to have people in your club that don't invest or don't know what they're doing, and when you think you have a chance to get rid of them, or as many times as Newcastle have as well, it's not nice.
Yeah, I mean, we knew this was going to happen because they just dragged in, and everyone had their opinion, and they talked about the piracy thing, and they talked about Saudi Arabia's human rights record, and then they've talked about lots and lots and lots of different things and said, oh, they're not fit and proper and everything. How is Mike Ashley fit and proper? He has some of the worst work practices at Sports Direct. He has drained the club, but yeah, he's fit and proper. What annoys me as well is, I'm sorry, Roman Abramovich is an oligarch. He's made a lot of his money came from dodgy things, if we're honest. And some of the other owners have dodgy records as well. So I don't really Man City's owners, some of their money is from, countries which have poor human rights records as well. So I don't really get the Premier League, and it's really irritated me, because the club they were ready to buy us. They were willing to pay a huge amount of money. Mike Ashley has no money at the moment. Well, he has money, but not as much because of what's happened with coronavirus affecting the high street. So we're kind of screwed now, because we've also been in limbo for 4 months. So I can really see us really struggling in the transfer market as well. Probably end up with George and Ive on a free or something.
We've made that joke tons of times. I don't think he'd be the worst signing, in fairness. I think under the right management, he is still a talented player. And I think that he can, but again, it's a case of which team he's going to play in. But I think compared to St. Maximan, he's probably going to be pale in comparison. But I also think if they can work together, I don't know.
We're going to be getting loans again. This is what Newcastle does on Dash. Lots of loans.
Yeah.
They play well. They leave us. Loic Remy was the classic example. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Still useless at Palace though by the time he finally came here. But regardless, I mean, Johnny, Andrew touched upon that a second about Mike Ashley passing the fit and proper persons test, and the Saudis not. I have a few reasons why I think that might be, but I don't really want to air them here. In terms of when comparing to the likes of the Manchester City owners, I mean, they're essentially owned by the UAE, and we all know that as a country, PSG are basically owned by Qatar, and we all know what the human rights records like that are over there. So I think is happening. I mean, I've heard other people talk about this, so this isn't just my conspiracy theory that I've plucked out of nowhere. But I think what's a pretty consistent thing to happen is, we all remember the, it was always called the Big Four as opposed to the Big Six. And the same top four would get the Champions League all the time, and they sort of formed an establishment from that, and they were they were very wary. When City got the takeover, they were very wary because, City were a threat and they had all this money. And now they're the top dogs in the league. They're getting Champions League every single season. So, there was talks of people when City were hit with that transfer ban. There was talks of other clubs, basically going to UEFA and snitching on them. The bigger clubs, the likes of the Chelseas and the Liverpools, etc. Again, this is all kind of confirmed. We don't know if that's true. Guardiola has come out in interviews and said this, but there's been little to no evidence to actually support that. But this is the talk that's gone on. And when you compare to someone like Leicester as well, Leicester haven't been targeted massively like that. That's because people knew they weren't a threat. That's because they knew that it was likely going to be a one-season blip. And, even then, they haven't even qualified for the Champions League this season. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is the Newcastle, the whole fiasco with the Newcastle ownership, is that linked to this sort of football establishment versus the rest of the league?
I mean, you could say that. I mean, Mike Ashley's he's a bellend, is what he is. That's what he is.
Yep.
I really feel for Newcastle fans, because you won't meet many more passionate fan base than Newcastle, and they're just so desperate for their team, because they're a massive. They are a big club. I know they get laughed at quite a lot because they're a massive club, and they should be so much higher in the league, and they should be in the Champions League as far as I'm concerned. It's just every season it's a fiasco, isn't it? Newcastle, it's just honestly, it's just I do feel for him. Mike Ashley shouldn't be at the club, as Andrew said. He shouldn't be anywhere. He shouldn't be anywhere. He's not fit and proper. He's a certain word that I won't repeat, but
I think you've sworn already.
Yeah,
exactly.
I won't say the word I was going to say, but he's just.
I can censor it out if you want. I don't mind.
No, it runs with my surname, so that's what I will say. Honestly, I just feel for him, and I just. I did think the Saudi Arabia thing was going to happen anyway because it's just Saudi Arabia, isn't it? I feel desperately sorry for Newcastle fans because where do they go from here? I don't know. They're just screaming out to be a big. Well, they are a big club, but screaming out to be higher, and it's just another thing, isn't it? I don't even know how to describe Newcastle. It should be a film, I think.
I mean, I suppose there is always the chance of being taken over by someone else, but how many times have we heard that in the past, and it's always fallen through. So if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be pretty pessimistic about the future. And I'm pessimistic enough as a Palace fan already. So
I think it's Mike Ashley. Like when he tried to change the name to the Wonga Arena, wasn't it? He had like was it 27 boards saying Wonga, and he was getting a lot.
Sports Direct, but yeah,
Sports Direct,
that's what St James's Park is like. It's just. You can't go anywhere without seeing Sports Direct.
Yeah, it's just such a shame, and I like Newcastle. I think they play it. Well, they do play good football sometimes. But I just feel for them. No, I do feel for them because they're a big club and they should be high where they are.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that there is sometimes. You see this? I mean, you see this with every fan. Leeds and Aston Villa are perfect examples, but there is often that sort of arrogance from some Newcastle fans that because they have this attendance, they have the right to be higher, and that they have the right to get all these good players. Like, people look at it in the here and now. You are a mid-table Premier League club who can attract the odd superstar like St Maximan, but in terms of other teams around you, like
Maxim isn't a superstar.
Well, exactly, but I mean in terms of.
Yeah,
but I mean in terms of like
player, but he's not a superstar.
No, but I mean in terms of like
we're a run-of-the-mill Premier League team now. We have to
exactly, but I mean in terms of like a flair player who Big Six. I mean, you talked about Big Six clubs coming in for him. I think he would do well there. I think the likes of Arsenal were linked for him and Sarr. So that's more what I meant by like obviously he's not a De Bruyne or an Aguero or anything like that. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that they can't go out and get these players even with the takeover. It would have been slightly more of a steady climb than that. But I mean, either way, I think having an owner like that is about you just want some sort of hope. You want some sort of idea that there's a vision for the club, and there clearly hasn't been at Newcastle for such a long time. So it's hard to really say where it goes from there, other than down and possibly back up again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose the only thing left for us to do is the let's all laugh at. Johnny, you've already hinted that you've got a lot to talk about, so I'll just hand the floor to you.
Well, it was probably about 5, 6, 7. I don't know. It was a while ago now when Arsene Wenger said qualifying for Europe was like winning a trophy, and everyone laughed at him. Everyone laughed at him, going, "Oh, he's an idiot. He's deluded." And you see Man United and you see Chelsea and Spurs finishing 6th, celebrating getting into Europe like they won something. Makes me. I was like, you've laughed at Wenger for doing it all this time, and you finish 4th, and you celebrate like you won the league. Made me feel physically sick. Honestly, I was like, you cheeky, you know what? So I was like, you slagged Wenger off for years for celebrating, for even saying it. And Spurs, Jose Mourinho finishing sixth, hugging his team like he's won something. Oh, honestly, I hope Chelsea and United do nothing in the Champions League because I can't. It made me angry. I was thinking, you qualified for Europe, well done. We've done that 20 years.
Couldn't even beat us Spurs. Stuart Mitchell was just too much for him to handle.
Exactly. And honestly, if only Faith finished seventh, we win the FA Cup, and they don't qualify for Europe. That would have been the perfect dream, but that can't happen now. But yeah, that's mine because it just made me angry. Seeing Jose Mourinho finishing sixth and celebrating. Well, not happy. Yeah.
Bit of a throwback, that one, but equally valid among those groups of fans as well. The sort of London rivalry gang, I don't know what the hell you'd call it, but that sort of circle, and Man United as well. Obviously, Man United are a London club, if ever there were one. But Andrew, have you got anything?
I read a funny story about Unai Emery that he'd gone on when he was in London. That he'd gone on a date and he had to use Google Translate constantly on the date, which just summed up his language problems in.
Oh my god, yeah, Unai Emery. Did you see on Facebook and Twitter? He was signing a contract with Villarreal, and he signed the contract and the pen had the lid on still. Oh, just fantastic. Good old Unai, love him.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we could get a quick word on him at Villarreal. Slightly lower expectations than Arsenal, I suppose you could say. More of a Europa League side than a Champions League one, at least when he took over. I mean, can you see him righting the wrongs that he made at Arsenal?
Do you know what, George? Unai Emery's not a bad manager. He wasn't. He just wasn't good enough for Arsenal. And you don't win 3 Europa Leagues in a row and be a bad manager. It just didn't work for us. Tactics. He didn't get tactics right. He set us up wrong. He'll go to Villarreal and he'll probably do very well because he's a good manager. Just unfortunately, it just didn't work out for us. I wish him all the best. I really do because I think he's he comes across as a nice bloke. He's a good manager, as I said. So yeah, good luck to him.
I think he will be so happy he can speak Spanish because at PSG everyone made fun of his French and at Arsenal everyone made fun of his English. So he'll be glad he can just speak his native tongue.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as someone who's terrible at languages overall, I can definitely sympathise with that one a lot. So yeah, as for my one, I think it's about time that I finally poked in front of my own team. I'm surprised it hasn't come up a bit earlier between now. There's been plenty of opportunities. But I've gone for Johnny. I'm sure you know exactly where I'm going with this. Certain Alexander Sorloth, who has been on loan at, I'm not even going to try and pronounce their name, Transpor. I apologise, Turkish fans that are listening. But yeah, he actually scored the winning, well, not the winning goal, but the second goal in their win in the Turkish Cup last night. So I think that's 32 goals he has this season in all competitions, which is more than our entire team has scored all season. Now, here's the thing. That by itself isn't necessarily the problem, because we all know, I don't know if you've seen the Turkish League, go back and look at some of that defending in those clips. I mean, that is League One stuff at best. I still don't think he would have been done that much better at Palace. However, what really cinches it for me is that we bought him for about £8 or £9 million, something around that. Transport have a buyout clause in their contract of £5.5 million. And they've also been rumoured, the likes of Napoli, the likes of, I think, Real Madrid were linked with him at one point. He could be going for about 20 to 30 million pounds, which means we'll have gotten rid of a 31 goal a season striker who goes for 30 million pounds and we'll make a 3 million pound loss on that transfer. It's like, that might just be the single worst deal I have ever seen from a football club ever. I'm dead serious. Like, to lose money on a he's less than £10 million it cost us, less than £10 million. At least with players like Erdel Rakip. Who exactly? But with players like that, it's a loan deal, cost about 20k wages, didn't do well, but cost us nothing. Harmless signing. This one, we're actually losing money that could be completely transformed. 20 million could transform our squad, get us a couple of players that we need, and just really solidify us. But it's unbelievable.
Well, I'm not sure what to say to that, mate. I mean, it's called Let's All Laugh At, and I think, Let's All Cry At. I think that's more that.
Wow. Joe Hart might be going to Celtic. Mr. Head and Shoulders, who was the face and did all his faces to Perlo's fallen so far, hasn't
he? Yeah.
With Sorloth though, man, it's very strange. I mean, surely the scouts at Palace were going, he's scoring goals here. Is he on loan? Is he on loan?
He's on loan. I mean, I don't even think I'm amazed there wasn't a recall option included as
Must
well.
be,
Or at the
yeah.
very least, if you're not going to include a recall option, at least make the option to buy so that we at least break even, get the 9 million back, and then at least we can say, all right, it's done now, put it behind us. Now we can't even do that.
Yeah, because it's strange. We're looking at players like Benteke, who doesn't score goals, and I mean, Ayu's okay. Don't get me wrong, he scores goals. I think he scored 9 this season, hasn't he? Ayew?
Another Ayew wouldn't hurt, would it?
No, absolutely. But you know what I mean?
I said when we had him, he really needed a championship loan. He needs to get used to the English game at a lower level for someone like a Sheffield Wednesday or a Derby or someone like that. And I think he would do okay for them. I think maybe not 31 goals, but he would get better. And whether or not he'd be good enough for Palace, we don't know. But I think he deserved. I think it just showed our lack of squad management in general.
Yeah, bad scouting as well. Because surely, if you're a scout at Palace and you've seen your player scoring loads of goals abroad, you go, we've got to have a word here because he's scoring goals and we need goals. And yeah, it's very strange. Dan, if you lose him if you make a loss on him, that's scandalous, isn't it, from a Palace point of view?
Yeah, I mean the thing about the recruitment at Palace, and obviously the director of football, Dodgy Friedman as a whole, doesn't have any experience as a director, yet we appointed him. But the thing is, some of the signings, quite a lot of the signings, Guaita, Ayew, I got for about 3 million. Guaita was on a free, Cahill free, James McCarthy for about £3 million. He's not the best player in the world, but for 3 million, it's a pretty good deal. Nathan Ferguson, the latest one we've got in on a free transfer from West Brom. These are good deals. When we get it right, we do really well. But then you see things like Sorloth, you see things like Ollie Watkins. We had a £10 million release clause, and we waited. We were basically relying on Brentford to want to sell him and get an even cheaper price. They sold Neil Maupay to Brighton for £20 million. That's that gone. They're suddenly in the green again, so they don't need to sell him. And obviously he smashed it for them. So I mean, that's just where his inexperience shows. And I just think that I don't understand, if we want to go to the director of football route, why we didn't just bring someone in. I mean, I know why we brought him in ultimately. We want people at the club who are Palace through and through, and I get that. But if it's when you were in such a perilous position we were, it was under Frank Boa he was appointed. When you want a director of football, you need someone who knows how to bring in players and knows what they're doing. And I think his negotiation's been hit and miss. I really do. And I think that the time for rookie mistakes is over. We can't be making any more mistakes like that. We have such an aging squad. We need more players to solidify us. We need to be getting the best deals we possibly can. And I do worry about our transfer window, especially with no one seeming to come in for Wilf. I know it's only been a few days, but I really do worry because this is such an important window for us.
It is, yeah, massively, yeah. I mean, if you get a lot of money for Zaha, but most importantly, you need to buy with whatever money you get for him, could be 60, 70 million. That's pretty much a whole squad, isn't it? You need to buy.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, I'm confident we will, because we've looked at players like Eze, like Edouard at Celtic, like Ollie Watkins. You can debate whether or not we get them, but with that money we get for Zaha, you'd be fairly confident to say we'd be able to get one of them in. But we are waiting for that sale, one because of the fee and because of the wages as well. We wanted to get Sarr last season, we wanted to get some Maximan last season. Couldn't afford him. We just could not afford either of them. So it is frustrating, but it is. I don't know. Maybe I should have. I try to be as optimistic as I can. I really do, but it's not easy to be right now.
No, I understand that. I get that. Yeah, I mean, well, I think you win this time. Yeah, let's all laugh at. I think you win. I love the passionate round. I'm gonna listen to that back when it goes live, because that was
plenty more of those came from. Once I get going, I just can't stop.
Yeah, well, it's football, mate. Innit? It's football. We all love our club, and I'm sure when Arsenal lose on Saturday, I'll be doing exactly the same as you.
Excellent. Spread the love around a bit. Yep. Okay. Well, that's about all the time we've got. So thanks for listening to this episode. Be sure to drop us a like and a follow, whatever platform you're on. You can find us on YouTube and Spotify now at Let's All Laugh At a Football Podcast, as well as Twitter at LALA_podcast. Be sure to check out Johnny's podcast, Life's a Pitch, where you can find me on the latest. Be sure to check out all our social media. Links in the description as always. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Be sure to check out all our social media. Links in the description as always. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.